This is the 40U Tech Startups podcast. The podcast in which you hear all about the startups and spin-offs from the 4 technical universities in the Netherlands. From the challenges they face to the ecosystems they accelerate in, here we talk about what it takes to flourish and make impact on an international playing field. Brought to you by the 40U. Welcome to another episode of the Dutch 40U Tech Startups podcast. My name is Vera Boertien and I will be your host of today. And today we are going to talk about female foundership in deeptech specifically, because we're recording this from Paris, because we're here for Hello Tomorrow. And as I was planning my podcast episodes, I noticed that I only had male guests. And I was like, where are all the women? So I started looking around and I found Laure van der Sande, who wanted to chat with me about female founders in deep tech. Laure, can you introduce yourself?
Hi Vera, nice to see you here. Thanks for welcoming me. So I'm Laure, I'm co-founder and CEO of ARTIC Technologies, which is a Dutch deep tech company spin-off from Eindhoven University of Technology.
Nice. And what do you do?
So at ARTIC, in short, let's say, we control flow on microscale with very high precision. So we can transport liquids and we can pump liquids very good on a very small scale. And we first applied this in life sciences as enabling technology for organ on a chip.
Okay, so it's specifically used for organ on a chip.
Yes, as pumping technology.
Okay. Sounds very interesting. And how did you end up developing that?
Well, that was not me myself, actually, but my other co-founders
Right.
have been developing this for over a decade in the university. So there's already been research for quite a long time, let's say.
Yeah, that's usually the case with deep tech, right?
Yes, indeed.
So, can you share a bit more about that? What change are you hoping to make in the world with ARTIC?
So what we really hope to do, what we are all very passionate about, is that we see this technology being very promising. It has been researched for many years, and there are many research results, let's say, in the academic sphere.
Mm-hmm.
And at a certain point, my co-founders had this idea, like, if we do not bring it to society, it will stay a bit on the shelf now in research, because it has been researched for such a long time that the researchers in the group will find a new technology they are curious about.
Right.
So we are very passionate about really making impact with it in society, specifically on a sustainable level, let's say, and that's very broad, of course. In organ on a chip, we would like to help to reduce animal testing models, but also we would like to scale up to multiple applications in the future, more on the long term.
Yeah, and is it then organ on a chip for a specific use case, or is it organ on a chip in general? Because I think that's also quite broad, right?
It's quite broad indeed. So what we're doing now, we are starting pilots with the organ on a chip developers, and really looking into, okay, for what context of use can we add the most value with our pumping platform? Because what the big value we think is, we work with a magnetic technology. So it's called magnetic artificial cilia, the technology that we actually developed. And a big benefit there is that since it works with magnetism, there's no need for physical connection between where you need the fluid flow and where you actually have the driving pumping system, let's say.
Okay. Sounds very interesting. I studied communication, so for me, this is all still quite complicated. But what's your background? How did you end up developing this technology?
So my background is on Eindhoven University of Technology.
Yeah.
I studied mechanical engineering and innovation sciences.
Mm-hmm.
But my expertise was a bit more in sustainable energy, sustainability, which might also be, a field we want to enter later, more on the long term. I'm very passionate about climate tech, sustainability, sustainable energy, etc. But right now we're focusing on life sciences.
Yeah. And how did you end up at ARTIC?
Yeah, good question. That was actually a bit of a coincidence. So I met my my co-founders through a coincidence, and they were looking for somebody who could help lead the team and really very passionately commercialize this technology and lead that effort, let's say, because they were themselves, one is a professor that is staying in his position in a university, but that wants to take more of a scientific advisor role. And the other is also still has another task in his function. So that's how we combine it, let's say.
So they were more focused on the scientific part of it, and they needed more of a business person.
Yeah, you could say it like that. And they were also focused on the technology and the market of organ ownership. Right. They have great expertise on microfluidics, organ ownership, and a very good network. And indeed, very much the scientific side. And I have more affinity as well with business development, funding. But I'm still learning a lot in that as well, to be honest.
It's always a learning journey, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. And, well, I touched upon it briefly, but this podcast is actually about female founders in deep tech. Your co-founders, female or male?
Male.
Right. And do you see a lot of female founders around you, or?
Good question, yeah. There are very nice initiatives, I think, in Eindhoven around female founders and female... Yeah, in tech, let's say.
Yeah.
Female Tech Heroes is one initiative called. So that's really cool. I find it very nice. And of course, there you see a lot of women. But if I do then look within the startups and the spin-offs in the university, there are some... there are some women, actually. There's Sophia here as well from Mechanics. So... You see a couple, but I think the majority is still male, to say it like that. So there is a couple really cool ones, Danjing from Vera Boertien. But then other times you see like only male if you go to a workshop or something like that.
Yeah, I was scanning through the list of the delegation for Hello Tomorrow. Also looking for more women to join in my podcast. But there were so many men. And you know, most of the women, they weren't able to make it in this time slot as well. So yeah, there was not a lot to choose from. How is that for you? Like, do you feel different because of that, or doesn't it bother you at all?
It doesn't really bother me, to be honest. Like, of course, I would like to have even more women in deep tech, as well as these events are great, I think, where there are really things to organize for women in deep tech or startups, spin-offs, scale-ups, let's say. But for the rest, to be honest, it does not really bother me. I can work very well with men as well. So yeah, it's a two-sided thing, I think.
Yeah, I mean, in the end, we're all human, of course. And personally, I don't think that this whole startup tech scene, I don't think the men are very threatening or something. Like, it's usually very welcoming. Do you experience that as well?
Yeah, I feel it feels very welcoming indeed. So I do not have negative experiences in that, to be honest. I think, of course, but that is a well-known fact as well. If you have a more diverse team in terms of genders, but also age, ethnicity, all the things, then you can also often work. You have a more skill team in some way as well, because they the different perspectives kind of add to each other.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, different backgrounds make that you have different points of view, and if you combine those, well, that's where the magic happens, of course.
Yeah, I would say so. So that's nice, of course. So in that perspective, I think it's really nice to also have a gender diverse team. Let's say, not only male or only female. Like
exactly.
Mixed,
Yeah. And do you face certain challenges because you're a woman in deep tech, or is it actually that you can use it to your advantage? Because at events like Hello Tomorrow and also at Slush, I know there were always female founder side events and specific things for female founders. And I think I saw an event coming up, I don't remember which one, but female founders could get 50% off. Um, so do you see it as an advantage, or are there still hurdles for female founders?
I would say, well, of course, my startup journey is not already very long, so it's relatively short. Like we officially incorporated last year in August 2024. We've been working a bit more on the books, still a bit more research based beforehand, like 1.5 year beforehand. So to say in that way, I've maybe limited experience still in the scene, of course, but until now, I've only found it to work in my advantage mostly. Like there are really nice events with women. Yeah, we're really based on women as well, which is really nice to be there. There are funding specifically for women. Like,
Right.
for example, you have the EU funding Women Tech EU. Yeah, so I feel it actually works to your advantage. And sometimes I think in a male world, it can also, yeah, so if you're in this more male focused scene, you can also stand more out as a female sometimes.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and not only because you're a woman, of course, and your name is different, but also at events like Hello Tomorrow, the women that I see usually wear colorful suits for, yeah, well, I'm currently wearing an orange suit. So yeah, they also visually stand out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, not today. I wear a denim suit, but yesterday I had a very pinky blouse.
Right.
So
yes.
indeed, so that helps, I think.
Yeah. And so I think we can conclude from this that the deep tech scene isn't all that scary for women, and it's actually, is it quite accessible? Would you say, or
if you can conclude it from one perspective, yes. But of course, well, different people have different experiences. But for me, it's quite accessible. But I think it also helps. It also depends upon your co-founders and how they support you. Let's say in the team. I found my team really nice, very great and very supportive environment. We try to create as a whole. Let's say. So for me, yes, it's very supporting. And I would actually just also want to encourage women to go more into deep tech. But I've been thinking what might be the thing that less women are in deep tech maybe.
Yeah.
Or in engineering schools or research in general. And I think maybe that might also have to do with, of course, with Hello Tomorrow, really application focused. But deep tech can sometimes also be super fundamental.
Yeah.
Engineering, sometimes in general, well, it's often more application focused, but it can be really fundamental as well. Maybe that's the thing that females will also look a bit more into the application in the end. Like they want to see a visual of where it could be useful. I'm not sure.
It could be, yeah. But I think certain stereotypes also play a role in it.
Yeah.
For example, when I grew up, I'm 31, so not that old. But my mom used to stay at home with the kids, and my dad was a mason, so he would do construction work essentially. So like the very stereotypical view of what women and men should do. So that's not all that long ago. Do you think that still plays a role in women who currently have to pick a studies, for example?
How I see it, not really. Like in my experience, no. But I can imagine that your upbringing does a lot in that, of course. So if you're brought up in a family where that is still standard,
yeah,
you can very well imagine that it changes your view.
Yeah. I'm just hoping that slowly and gradually it would change more, and that the labels kind of fade away. For example, I have a daughter, she's only 5. But the last couple of weeks, they were learning about dinosaurs at school.
Mm-hmm.
Very cute. But when I was growing up, dinosaurs were just for boys, That was like very segregated. Like this is for boys and this is for girls. I think if you take all that away at an early stage, that technology can also be more attractive for women.
Yeah, Yeah, I agree. And what I also like is you see those initiatives now where on even primary schools, they do already more with technology.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it can be really basic, but that's
Yeah.
really nice. Yeah.
So it starts early.
Yeah, I think so. But and I think in the end, it's also a matter of where your passion is in. Like, I think if you really do not like it, maybe you will also not go to an engineering school, let's say, but you don't have to. But
Yeah.
that passion can also be steered a bit, of course.
Yeah. And how did you pick your studies?
Yeah, so on high school, I chose like this selection of courses, let's say, that you have to choose at a certain level. I really wasn't sure what I wanted to do, so I just picked the broadest package, let's say, with which I would have still any option open for university or any, like, quite a lot.
Yeah.
And then when I was almost finished at high school, I was, of course, visiting universities, what I wanted to do, because I did want to go to a university. But it was ranging still from medical school, really more to engineering.
And that's very broad.
That's quite broad in the end, because medical school is, you need to have biology, of course, but it's not so technical, let's say. It's really more biology focused. So I really wasn't so sure what to pick, but in the end, I think I did learn that I really liked technology a lot. And I was very interested in sustainability and in creating more sustainable future, the environment. So I picked a combination of sustainable innovation on Eindhoven University of Technology, and that worked out really, really well. So I wasn't really sure about it initially. Like, I didn't really have a gut feeling about it, but I also just thought I see it as the best fit at this moment. So
Yeah. So if you have a passion for technology, go follow it, basically.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah. Yeah.
And how do you have other ways of how we can get women more excited for tech or deep tech?
That's a good question. Yeah. You mean like in general, or at
like
a young age, or?
Yeah, but also, are there things universities need to do, or is there a task for a government, for example? Just so you get the also the diversity in the workplace.
Yeah. Yeah, I think on the one hand, of course, that already happens at young age and stimulating girls a bit more. And what you said, like, not limiting each type of the different genres, let's say, in different ways. Like, also just allowing, on the other hand, also allowing boys to go to dance classes or something. It's always something. When I was young, that was seen more for girls, for example, and then soccer was seen more for boys. But then I think, just allow everything, and try not to really stereotype already in that. On the other hand, I would say, I don't know if it would really steer women more women into deep tech. But what we were talking about this morning very shortly with the alumni coaches breakfast is that when you're in university, well, then you're already in university, of course, so you're probably already in engineering, but maybe in another major, you do not really get taught things about how it works in a large business or corporates, or also about a startup, and to scale that up and how things work like that. Within your studies, you don't really learn about that. And I think that would have been very valuable to learn more about that. But yeah, maybe that's a step when people have already chosen for engineering.
Yeah.
But it is something I thought of today, like that would be very, very nice.
Yeah, so more stimulating the entrepreneurial mindset of people.
Yeah, mindset, I think that's steered more and more and stimulated more and more. But when you're in university, yeah, maybe you can call it mindset, but it's also a way of thinking about in larger numbers, maybe. So We talked, for example, about that you're taught to build maybe a system for one system, but not to scale this up to a higher production.
Right.
And think about those things then. That's really only when you come to a business where, and that would be so useful as well. So maybe a better connection between university and larger companies or larger manufacturing companies.
Yeah. So not just go from A to B, but also from B to C, essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Think about that from the start a bit more.
Yeah. Yeah. Are there any things that you would like to say to women who are considering going into deep tech or starting a startup, perhaps?
So specifically a deep tech startup, you would say then?
Yeah.
I think also be open to a lot of new experiences. I think that just comes along with it. But at a certain moment, I think like you learn so much, and I'm still learning so much, and that's really nice. What I really like. But what I've also learned over the past time is that when you start such a deep tech startup, you hear a lot of different advisors from people,
right?
That are willingly giving advice, let's say, but that doesn't always apply to you at that stage.
Mm-hmm.
And what you can do is you can either, follow everyone's advice and kind of see where that brings, or at a certain moment have a kind of a direction you want to go and then see what advice sticks to it.
Yeah.
But that's easier said than done, I think. And at certain stages, or you always have a lot of challenges. At certain stages, you have bigger challenges than the others. And then you actually do want like advice from experienced people.
Yeah.
You could really apply. So I think it's a matter of kind of making your own method or strategy to see at what moment you should follow. And in the end, that's maybe also a bit gut feeling.
Yeah. But I think that also really ties into what you said at the beginning, that because you talked about your co-founders, that they're like very, very nice people to be around, that you should gather the right people around you. Yeah.
Yeah. And also what I learned this conference already a lot is that it really helps to have more commercial experienced people in your team as well.
Mm-hmm.
Which we do not really have yet, like really commercial on a high level of a corporate maybe, or a large business.
Yeah.
So I believe that can really help your business as well. So it's something I think we should start looking into. You learn so many things.
Yeah, valuable insights.
Yeah.
Well, having said that, I think we have to round it off here. Thank you very much for joining the podcast, and the best of luck with your startup, and enjoy the rest of Hello Tomorrow.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Very nice to be here.
Thank you.